Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Burger, our podcast produced by the New Mexico Beef Council. I'm Caroline Romo, and I'm here with Alisa. We're here in Ruidoso for the mid-year meeting for New Mexico cattle growers. Will you introduce yourself and maybe start with your background?
Sure. I'm Alisa Ogden. I'm a lifetime farmer and rancher in southeastern New Mexico, fifth-generation rancher, third-generation farmer on land that my grandparents on both sides of my family homesteaded and went to. I am a past president of New Mexico Cattle Growers Association. I was president from 2007 to 2009. And so New Mexico Cattle Growers keeps their past presidents involved, so I'm still on the board of directors. And I feel like it's an extremely important organization for the state of New Mexico because we represent the cattle industry, but we also look at all other avenues of agriculture and try to be proactive in things that are going on in the cattle industry.
Oh, absolutely. And I think the most important thing is that we need volunteers, right? So volunteers and people that are willing to put themselves out there and take their time away from the ranch is absolutely. And then you also happen to be really good at it.
Oh, well, thank you. It's important, like you said, for people to go out and to advocate for their industry. So many have let others do it for them. And if you want to be sure that your industry is a viable industry for the future, and if you have your children going into that or any kind of family, or even those that are your friends, you want them to not have constant spears being thrown at them. And we are in the cattle industry all over the United States. I'm also involved in the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. And for the next 2 years, I'm serving as chairman of the Federal Lands Committee because southeastern New Mexico has a lot of federal and state lands, public lands, really, committee. And so you have to understand not only what goes on in your industry on your private land, but how public decisions that are made in federal and state governments affect you as trying to be ranchers.
Absolutely. I think that's we've talked about it a lot in the podcast of how much you have to know, right? How many different avenues and how many things you just have to be almost a knower of everything, right? It just goes beyond anyone's imagination, I think.
Definitely a jack of all trades and master of none is a pretty good discussion about anyone involved in agriculture, not just ranching. So you really have to be aware of all that's going on, the new technology that you can use to benefit raising your cattle or how you work your cattle. Right now at our mid-year meeting, there's a woman in there talking about, low stress handling of your animals and your best way to design your corrals and things like that. So it always something to make how you are a herdsman or a cattleman, or however you want to define it, to be the best you can be and to produce the best product you can with the least amount of stress on that animal.
Absolutely. And I know you said the jack of all trades, master of none. I had read something or maybe saw a video somewhere where the end of that quote talks about how good it is to be a jack of all trades. And I just think that's a really great thing. That made me feel maybe inspired that when you're saying that, I know it's almost sometimes self-deprecating to say the master of none, but in the real thing is it's so cool to be so many things and to try and expand your knowledge and all of that. So,
well, I'm not a very good mechanic, but I'm a pretty good plumber and a pretty good electrician. So, you just look to see where you're. There are people in this world that do things for a living, so I don't have to, and I'm really happy they're there for that reason.
Me too. Tell me about your ranch and your operation, where it is, and kind of what you guys do.
So our family ranch is south of Carlsbad, New Mexico. My great-great-grandfather homesteaded in 1890, 22 years before statehood, homesteaded the ranch. He came in from South Texas. We all wonder why they stopped there, but how it is. And it has stayed in the family. It's been divided a couple of times, but it has stayed in our family. My great-great-grandfather was John D. Forehand. He was a trail driver as well as doing a lot of other things. And so in 1981, went to college, got my master's at Colorado State, worked there a couple of years as a women's athletic trainer. And in 1981, I came back to run the ranch with my dad. And then he needed a tractor driver and a irrigator and a this, that, and the other. So not only did I do the ranching part, but I also farm. And the farm was settled by my father's family in 1916. And so we've been there a while. My brother and I are partners on the ranch, and then we each do our farming separately. But it's all I ever wanted to do. I did the other because I should have another life in this world. But the farming and ranching have always been my first and only love. And so we have a cow-calf operation. We raise primarily a crossbred Angus-Hereford and have done that. You try a breed here and there, but we've always gone back to the Hereford Angus. Their meat is the best meat to eat, and that's what we're doing is we're raising a good quality beef product so people will enjoy what they're having to eat. And through cattlemen's colleges that I've attended at New Mexico Cattle Growers, I've learned more about how to, on my animal husbandry, to do things that keep your animals healthy. They talk about, I don't want to give them any antibiotics. Well, what do you do when you're sick? So there's some things that you have to do to keep your animals healthy and to try and have them live their best life, the best as you can. Part of the luxury we have with the farm is we raise alfalfa hay, small grains, sometimes some Sudan, different forages. So if while we're in the droughts, we have an option with our cattle that we can feed them what we have. Sometimes you just have to slow down and get rid of your herd. And we're at a very low amount right now because we haven't had rain. We've been in a over 3-year drought. We pray that this El Nino, they say that's coming in, and a good monsoon season will help. But when you've been in a drought as long as we have, it's years to recover from that. And I've lived through as many droughts as I've lived through wet years. And the first time I had to sell a lot of the cattle because of a drought, and they were my cows that I'd calved out as heifers. I'd seen them go up all that way. We retain ownership on our heifers. And I cried when the truck left the ranch, and I swore I would never cry again when I had to disperse the herd, because watching them starve to death is worse than putting them on a truck and dispersing the herd. So you have to have passion for what you do, but you also have to have a hard demeanor and heart when it comes to doing things, when you know all your cattle, so to speak, and it's time to get rid of them. And sometimes it's earlier than you plan to, but it's only because it's what's good for the cow, not just good for us.
Oh, absolutely. I think the fact that you care so much is something that we really want to talk about in the podcast, or that's kind of the goal of the podcast, because if someone wants to know where their food comes from, I want them to know that the people are wonderful and have their hearts set on this lifestyle and are doing the best to care for the cattle and care for the land, and having to make those hard decisions that many of us couldn't.
Well, it is a hard decision. And when I first came back to the ranch, there was a really good range con at BLM, and they were doing the analysis of this forage and everything, and he was going out every year, and I got to go with him. And I learned so much, and this was like 1981 too. I was learning so much of how you did your forage evaluation, your plants that were out there, which of your forage was more edible. My dad was really good at that also. And so it helps you. There's people that look and don't see. And so when you're looking at your pasture, you need to see what's out there and available for your animals to eat, and what you can do to help in your rotational grazing and all of those different type of aspects. But right now, half the ranch, we don't have cattle on them because we haven't had the rain to grow grass. And that's just the fact of life, that you don't always, and when you don't have a good rain season, you just go where you have grass, and then you adjust your numbers to where you can. But I've always felt like that we have done it as ranchers a good job in taking care of our animals.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think you've already answered, half the questions, because you're talking about New Mexico's climate, and you're talking about the land preservation, and ranchers are often the ultimate environmentalists, and the fact that, you're resting your grass, and then that you have to rely on nature, right? That's such a different
Limiting
thing.
factor.
Yeah, such a limiting factor. Yeah.
I was involved with the Bureau of Land Management, State Land Office, the Soil and Water, Carlsbad Soil and Water Conservation District. In the early 2000s, a program was implemented in looking at the watersheds. And there was an agreement across all entities there, in addition with the private landowners. And the project was called Restore New Mexico. And it was going in and putting out tebuthyron, or spraying your, that's for woody plant species, or spraying your mesquite to help with, slowing down the takeover of your grassland. And so our ranch, my dad was in agreement, and our branch was involved in Restore New Mexico from almost the beginning of the project. We were doing things on our own because initially the state land office, state land and private were the only ones who could get equip money. Well, things changed, and then you could get equip money on also federal land. So when the attitudes in the offices and the Crossbad field office for Bureau of Land Management was where the thought process came around, and they were very proactive in this. Soil and Water Conservation District jumped in. And so in the Carlsbad district and in Roswell, they started doing proactive brush control. And you could see the difference in your production of your grass, your health of your soil. You didn't have the bare ground you used to have because you didn't have these woody plant species taking in all the water, and the grass had an opportunity to grow. And so my dad did projects before all of these monies were available. He showed how you could put up some woven wire fence on a drainage, and you would get your grass coming back in instead of having slick dirt, or taking a buck scraper out and just making low spots so the water would slow down and pool. So I was raised by a conservationist who always was looking how to make a better mousetrap in everything, in farming and ranching. So I feel very fortunate to have benefited from my dad's foresight in looking at things and how to improve that desert ground that we have. And then when BLM and the Soil and Water Conservation District say, hey, we think this is a great idea too, it was really a game changer in how our ranches became the ones who entered into the program, how it improved the quality of the forage on the ranches. And so I'm really fortunate that I have been involved in that project. And right now, money's a little short on the federal side, but we still try to do things that are proactive in improving the rangeland. And so I'm grateful for my dad being one of those initial persons that did that kind of thing.
Well, and that's why your family has been on the same land since 1890 and 1916, right?
Right.
Probably a long line of conservationists.
Well, my granddad terraced land with a sled and a team and his eye.
Yeah.
On the first, when he first picked up some of that land. And after the 50s, in the drought of the 50s, there wasn't anything out there. And all my dad had was a buck scraper and a tractor. And he went out making water bars on roads and doing all kinds of things. So I think if you're looking and you're innovative, you can improve what you have. And I'm not the only one. You find that the people who are successful ranchers are very innovative, and they have a conservation mind. And if you're not conservation minded as a rancher, you don't have anything.
Absolutely. You have to care for the land so that it can care for the livestock.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What's maybe something exciting you're working on, whether it be maybe something you're doing on the ranch or something, or even on the farm, or maybe cattle growers, but what's something you're excited about right now?
Oh gosh, there's so many things going on. I'm in hopes that I'm going to go nationwide, with the change in the administration with Bureau of Land Management. And we were talking about it before the change in administration, but there's they're looking at changing the grazing rules, regulations, and maybe making them to where they're more applicable for ranchers westwide to use. And then there's also discussions going on about having the Forest Service grazing regulations and the Bureau of Land Management grazing regulations be more similar. So people who have private, federal, both forest and BLM lands can manage them as a watershed or as a whole and not have different regulations depending on which federal agency you're dealing with. So I hope this comes to fruition. And I think the people in place right now in the government are looking to do that. And we have Karen Bedfallon here speaking today, and she's in the Department of Interior, and she's very range-minded. So I'm really looking forward. She's progressive on the grazing regulations for the Bureau of Land Management. And so we're in hopes that we can have some positive things come about on a federal level that will help all ranchers, especially westwide, that are our public land ranchers.
What is the biggest challenge you face in your operation? Of course, you've kind of already talked about some, but so maybe it's a different challenge.
For me, it's primarily the droughts that you manage for.
Mm-hmm.
You don't manage for wet seasons, you manage for droughts.
Right.
And they can wear on you a lot. And so when you rain, people laugh in the East that you get excited with a 1-inch rain. But your attitude, it's amazing when you do get rain, you have just a real attitude adjustment. And so that is probably one of the things that I look for. And I try to maximize what I'm doing so that when we do get rain, it is the most effective possible.
Absolutely. I think
that's never ending.
No, like you said, you've said, and we, I know I've said in another podcast too, is the meteorology aspect of ranching is crazy too, right? Because you guys know about what's weather patterns and monsoons, and then when Cattlefax has their meteorologists talk about historic patterns, that room is packed at the Cattlemen's convention. And it's, again, another thing to add to the list of titles. But it's, and it's a shared experience for many in the Southwest, like you said, or you said West, right? Oh, will you talk about what your favorite part of the industry?
So I've been blessed to be involved in both New Mexico and national cattle organizations. The friendships I've made are outstanding. Growing up in New Mexico cattle industry, the older people, which I am now, one of those, would take the younger kids under their wing to help teach them and train them up. And I hope that maybe I can help do some of that. But the people you've gotten to know, the friendships you've made, the relationships you made are priceless. And people in the cattle industry, in agriculture, I'm also on the cotton board, people in agriculture as a whole are some of the most wholesome people you will ever know. And they're down to earth because they, when you're working with the earth, you understand how things are. And it's pretty remarkable. I'm in awe of how many ideas they have and and how innovative they are. And so that has definitely been a blessing that I've been able to glean knowledge from other people.
Well, I hope that I can now glean knowledge from you and others as well. And I'm grateful. You talked about friendships. I was just telling my husband this morning that sometimes I wonder how to make new friends and build new friends, and then I realized it's just because my friends are at the cattle conventions. I just have to come here, and then I get to see you all, and what an honor. So,
well, I've been blessed to have gotten to know you better since you've gone to work here in New Mexico, and you have definitely done very good things in promoting our product. And you're looking at innovative things, and in this day and time, we have to be innovative. And we have to look at not the traditional ways of promotion. And so I think that Beef Council has done a very good job since you've come with your new outlook and fresh looks on everything. So we appreciate you.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It's an honor to represent the industry, and I don't take it lightly. And we're trying to be really, really good stewards of the money that is your money. So thank you. I didn't even pay you to say that.
No, I did that on my
no, thank you. What a compliment.
I do want to say, though, that there is currently a senator from Utah that wants to do away with all checkoffs in all commodities. And that's unfortunate because we, as producers in whatever commodity it is, voted to assess ourselves this because promotion and research is so important in our fields. And so I'm sorry that he thinks it's a tax and wants to eliminate all checkoffs in all commodities when it is an important part of how we advertise, how we promote. When we can put our dollars together for promotion and research, we're able to do so much more for our product than if we were trying to individually do it. New Mexico cattle growers as a single entity could not do what you had with Beef Council, and you're able to get the dollars to a national level too. We can't do that, and I can't do it as an individual. So I hope that the checkoff will continue in all commodities because the research and promotion is so important.
Absolutely. Well, I thank you for believing in what we do, and I think it's a wonderful thing that the policy side is separate and that we have this promotion side at the Beef Council, and I can't lobby and I can't do policy, and there's other, rules about how we spend the money because promotion, research, and education are the priorities, and that was the missing piece in the industry, and I'm so grateful that I get to work in that piece.
I do both with cotton on one side and on the other. It helps me with my interest in being policy driven, but also wanting to be sure that the promotion, research, education are very high priorities in every commodity.
Oh, absolutely. And I keep saying too, if there's producers listening to the podcast or if I'm talking to them here, is that we want input and we want you paying attention. I hope that you're looking for what we're doing, and I hope we're having conversations about it because it's your money.
Absolutely.
It's your money, so we want to do a good job. So constantly try and be a penny pincher and try some new things, and then also it's kind of out of our nature to brag about what we're doing, but we're learning how to do that. So we gave a report card yesterday.
We get great value for our dollar.
Thank you. I hope, and we'll keep working, and I'm sure there'll be
or $2.
Yeah. Right. We do get. I guess that's a little side note is the New Mexico Beef Council is funded by an animal is sold, $2 are collected, 50 cents goes to the Cattlemen's Beef Board, our national organization, and about $1.50 comes to the New Mexico Beef Council. And then we already talked about what we're allowed to do with that promotion, education, research. So there you go. Good sidebar. Well, here's a fun question. Why do you do what you do? What makes you keep going through drought, through difficulties and challenges? Why do you keep waking up and choosing this?
It's in my body. It's in my bones. It's in my heart. My son's in the military right now, and he plans to come back in 3 years to the farm and ranch, which I told him was a good thing because I couldn't last forever. And but he understands that passion and the love of growing things and the animals. he used to give me a hard time. And he says, Mom, how do all your houseplants die? And you're a farmer. And I said, well, we go through drought and drown at my house, just like we do out on the ranch. And so it's passing on something that you have generations of people ahead of before you that had that same passion, that worked hard. And I just have that place in my heart that that's something that gives me satisfaction for what I'm doing. I feel like I'm doing something that's worthwhile, that is good for other people. I wear my cotton jeans and shirt. I eat my beef, drink my milk, all those other things. And I live my production in all ways.
And that's evident that you love it and live it. And gosh, we're so thankful for people like you that are providing food and fiber for all of us. Okay, so now we have a kind of fun, but we joke that this is the most important question. What is your favorite way to eat beef, or even a favorite recipe if you'd allow us to put it on the website?
So I'm a purist. I don't want stuff on my meat other than salt, pepper, green chili, cheese. You can't beat a medium for me. Cooked steak. My favorite's filet, but I will eat all cuts. And I love a good green chili cheeseburger.
Absolutely. A true New Mexican.
I mean, I've even found freeze-dried green chili that I can carry with me on trips, so I can put it in my eggs, or whatever. So, but I'm not into sauces. I'm not into a whole lot of other things. I will put, hamburger meat in other products and with other things. But I just really like meat by itself, with something by itself. And so I don't have any other recipe other than salt, pepper,
and a nice steak.
And a nice steak, and maybe a Modelo on the side or something,
Perfect. That's perfect. No, I support that wholeheartedly. I love a good fillet. I love sometimes I love the portion control of a fillet.
Right, exactly.
But we love steaks, and we love green chili cheeseburgers. Those are good. I know I learned at Cattle Convention the trick is to go to the NMSU, the New Mexico State University booth, and they have green chili samples, and you go get your green chili samples so that you can add some green chili to whatever you're eating in the Chuck Lydon Cafe.
Exactly.
At the convention. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for everything. Thank you for joining us on the podcast, but really thank you for the work you do for cattle growers and the work you do to provide food for New Mexico and for the world. So
I appreciate it. Thank you very much for asking me.
Absolutely. Thank you. Behind the Burger is a podcast produced by the New Mexico Beef Council with the goal of telling the stories of the cattlemen and cattlewomen of the New Mexico beef industry. Thank you for joining us for today's episode. If you would like more information, please visit nmbeef.com. Whether it be a burger, a steak, or another beef dish, we hope you are enjoying beef at your next meal.